type of walls that they've had on the orphanage there. That was from last year. That's a bamboo partition. See the spaces between the weaving there? That's great for letting the air in, but it also lets all kinds of flies in. And every 3 years, it's about a 16th to an 18th of an inch because they flatten it and split it, flatten it, and then weave it together. And so you have to replace it about every 3 years. So that's being replaced. I'd like to see what the walls were like. That was
1 out of 6
last
wasn't
year.
the temperature.
And this was the overhead. Temperature was hot.
Yeah, but that wasn't the
It's not
196
that
that was on the wall, was it?
And that's, remember they had the fire, literally fire to do the cooking with. That was last year. Now, that's no longer there. There are actually windows in those doors. Zun Kun is the man who oversees it. He is being significantly challenged. Both his wife and his college-age son are now in a mental hospital. Her sister was at a mental hospital, and it's probably genetic. So, doesn't sound like a soul issue, it sounds like a body issue. But that's still really hard. So, let's just stop and pray for him. Dear Lord, we ask you for Zun Kun. He has such a huge heart to be able to serve these children. Lord, we ask that you would bring healing to his wife and son and comfort to his heart as well. In your name we pray, Lord Jesus. Amen. Sean Fling is the guy in the red shirt, and Tanyo is the guy in the white shirt. Tanyo is the one who's doing the Kong Bible translation. Sean did the Matthew Bible translation. It took him 17 years. So that he had his translation, his first, well, it happened more than once, but his first copy of the New Testament got burned up and he had no replacements. So he had to do it all over again. So you can, people of perseverance. 2 days before I left to go to Myanmar, my doctor, my VA doctor, is a ethnic Chinese who comes from Indonesia, a saved lady whose mother turned from, I think it was, she turned to Christ anyway. Actually, it was her grandmother who turned to Christ first. Had a healing ministry, and she's now a doctor. Anyway, she told me about a couple she knew from the Dallas Chinese Bible Church that were with the Wycliffe Bible translators, and that they were translating the Bible into the Kong language. And I was like, Kong? So my first real day there, I got in Myanmar Saturday evening, went to church on Sunday morning, and there was a lady from the Netherlands, first time in that church, who was with Wycliffe. And so her name was Yannicka. I didn't pronounce it correctly. And she said it 3 times, and I told her, I'm tone deaf. I know you're saying it perfectly, but I'm not hearing it, so this is the closest I can come. I told the name to Ken, and he said, yeah, that's the name, but of course I don't have it with the Dutch accent, so it doesn't sound the same. But anyway, I'm going, God, are you doing something here? Probably not the Kong translation, but I'm going to try and track back through. One of the things that will need to happen at some point is to have reviewers. He's been, Tanyo has been having people who speak the Kong language help him with trying to get the best words so that people will be able to understand best translation in the Kong language. It's a meaning-based translation. It's the one, that's the kind that Sean Fling did. And so we're hoping that I can track back, because she never gave us her last name or the real place of where, it's kind of the Wycliffe people are really, they try not to let anybody know where they are, what they're doing, so they'll get, they're preparing for translating for people that, I heard it was the Maasai, that were expats from Myanmar, but there's a group of them in Thailand, and that's where their group is, and she's in Myanmar learning the language to help be able to make the Burmese language, to be able to make help with the translation. Anyway, we're hoping that out of that they'll be willing to come to help with the review process, which takes time. Really helpful to have somebody who knows what they're doing. Actually, the best translation comes from the people who are nationals, who know the heart language. And so it's much, much cheaper, which it makes it so that we can afford to sponsor that translation into the Kong language. But that'll be after something that we'll track through, and I got a chance to talk to Tanya. He reads English really well, and he understands my English, but I don't understand his. So I have to have Sean with us so I can make sure that we're making communication. And I told him we're going to go ahead and keep going through with the process that he's gone through, but at some point we want to have a review done, even though it takes a long time. You can't do it quickly, so that it'll be the best possible translation. Just for a reminder for you, I think about this all the time, so I'm not sure. I know I'm saying things over again. I understand my dad did that a lot when he got older, and I'm not necessarily there, but I wanted to help you with your memory that there are changes that have come to Myanmar as Old Burma, as the military has released, like, think of a quarter section of the pie. They've released control that much. Not all of it, but they're no longer people who with machine guns that greet you at the airport, which is a huge change for the benefit. Anyway, they allowed elections, and the Hill Country people put mostly Christian people in, which allowed for the change of the state governments. And so now in the Chin Hills, the Matu children are learning to read from the primers that Sean Kling wrote. And so it's a direct help. Where do they go from the primers? Well, they're going to go to the New Testament. So they're going to learn how to read, and one of the next things that's going to happen is they're going to be able to read Scripture. And so that was UNICEF came in to help them be able to learn to read in their own language. That tends to be a fairly rare thing, because normally what happens is people who are on minority culture living in a majority culture are forced to learn the majority language. They'll still have to learn how to learn Burmese, but they'll also be able to use their own heart language, which is Matu. And for the Kong people, Tanyo had less than a year ago, had done primers. So I wasn't there long enough to find out whether they were in the process of allowing the school teachers to use the Kong primers with the Kong school children. They haven't had a written language, and so what Tanyo's having to do is he's had to create a written language for their oral language. And so, but this is just a marvelous timing where outside funds are coming in to allow the local school teachers to teach the heart language using primers that were specifically designed to help lead the people into being able to read the Bible. So just the timing thing is just interesting. So anyway, we'll go through. This is Rawang Kong. He's the guy in the white shirt. Okay. The young lady, that's Maisie Ram. She's a Bible school graduate. She teaches children. She was involved in training in different groups. His wife, Madam Chung, is in the pink. His son, Daisy, is a graduate of Bible school. He's been doing, he's following kind of in his dad's footsteps. For those of you who may have forgotten, Roland Pong was a slave for 7 years. The insurgents took him captive and had him teach their children. He's got a marvelous teaching gift. And one day they just didn't guard him and he just walked away. And then about a year after that, he just gave his life completely to doing the ministry. His uncle is one of the pioneers in the faith among the Rawang people. They are like 95% Christian. So now, the young guy in the green t-shirt, Quinn Chong, he is now on a Korean vessel, mostly manned by Burmese people. And at his graduation from the Merchant Marine Academy, the church gave him a tablet. He uses that to keep in contact with his parents. And this last year, he was able to, his oldest brother, who's not in the picture there, but is on our wall, his name was Pong Lat. He got refugee status. He is in Kent, Washington. When Quinn Chong was on the West Coast, he was, through his shipping company, he got a U.S. visa, so he was able to go off ship. So he was able to visit his brother twice, once from when he was in Portland, Oregon, and another time when he was at SeaTac, or the Port of Tacoma. And so that's the first time in years he's been able to see his older brother. We've been praying that he'd have a Christian shipmate. He doesn't have one yet, but he's able to communicate his faith because these guys are Burmese. So he has easy way of speaking of the good news to his shipmates. And one of the things he wanted to learn was English. Well, his officers on board are helping him to learn English. So there's a number of prayer things that have been answered with that group. Okay? This is at the Sunday. Can you see what the kids are looking at? Third world country, and all these kids are looking at iPhones to sing the song, and I'm going, these kids from a third world country are more technologically advanced than I am, you know, so I couldn't do what they're doing. And so they're singing a song, and as Pastor Roland is in the back, he's the pastor of the church, but I thought it was just really funny that here all these kids are looking at it, you know, they're singing the song in church and using their iPhones, so, yeah, there you go. Noah is a Ka. He's one of the TNTers. Not the best lighting, but he gave a report. He's a missionary from that local church. It's a really small church, but he's a missionary over near the Thai border and near Tachalik. He is going to be starting he went through giving a report in Burmese. My translator would translate a bit and then stop. I thought he was too interested. He said, no, he started over 3 different times, and he just keeps going about starting over. So he's had a tough time getting started. He's considered too young to be a teacher of other pastors. He's just barely breaking into that. He's probably going to be starting a children's home. He showed me a picture of the church building. It's a bamboo with thatch, and then a lean-to on the side of it where the children will stay. That's usually the way they go. They start off with something bamboo, then put a metal roof over it, then they put better siding on it, and so it's like, you know, start off and then just slowly improve. Okay? And Chunkling preached. Here's the kids at the orphanage. Can you notice their windows with glass in them? They open. And that cement board, I kept calling it concrete board, it kept getting corrected. And so that stuff that they put on their face is supposed to be like a beauty thing, and it's also supposed to help with, anyhow, we were talking about only in some place that's really cut off from the rest of society would you see people putting stuff like that on their face thinking it makes them look good. So anyway, that's strictly Myanmar. They're Karen always makes sure that I have enough candy for the kids. So when I go, they're enjoying the candy here. That's, they're singing a action song. I tried to get, Pastor Olin was with me, I tried to get the action song, and he couldn't, it had too much data to go via the email, so he's supposed to put it on Facebook, and then some other time I'll show you the action song. You can tell I kept trying to, they had all kinds of actions. They had this wiggle sort of thing that they did that I could never catch. They also have something, some kind of a, not really a plexiglass, but some kind of a vinyl that lets light in. But that, you can tell the interior still needs to have cement board put up. And we left, there were some funds from our Sunday school class, and the money that they give goes to this orphanage. And then we increased it to $450 so that they could have something to, so now that, I don't know what I did.
Sorry, wrong button.
Say again, Matthew?
Said sorry, wrong button. Let me put this back here.
Okay, anyway, the money that we're gonna, the money that we gave is going to be putting, they bought the lumber, they bought the cement boards, they haven't got a carpenter in to do it yet, but, yeah, just keep going there. Go, 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 go. That's good, we can stop there. The lumber and cement boards are already there, they'll just need to have a carpenter this next week. Last week they had a, like a youth retreat. And so that the kids from the church came out to be with them out at the orphanage. That's one way of keeping them together. There's kids, they're doing really well, the orphanage kids. So next year, if you look at the ceiling, they put something like we would have on metal roofing up, so that now the birds that fly in underneath, you know, they don't have problems with that, and it also covers up the wiring that way. Okay. Can you see the water on the ground there? Okay. Now, those boxes, I was asking about them, they were in there before, but I didn't realize they have the boards on around the dirt where the garden is growing. The reason they put the boards there is because it rains so hard it'll wash the dirt away. And so they have to have something that will, you can see how many inches high that they have over that dirt. Well, there's a good reason for that. It rained hard enough as we were going out there, you could hardly see the road. It was the same color off the road as was on the road as was on the other side of the road. And most of the time, the people there, if what we would consider a downpour, they didn't even hesitate. But they took cover when it got that hard. It was real monsoon. And this lady is out there. I took a picture of her because they're called lady fingers, and we have a lady with the lady fingers there. I don't know, they didn't have another name for it, but that's a plant that they grow in there. Increasing the size of their garden. I missed you can see the outside now all has the cement board on it. Now, last year when I was there, different season, because I'm sure that that monsoon rain drowned a lot of flies. But anyway, flies were miserable. I mean, there was like 100 times more flies than there were kids. But now with the cement board, they don't have as easy access into the. Okay, those are the rice cookers that we got for them when we were there last time, so that they don't have to cook over an open fire. It's raining outside. I didn't get a. There's a. That's actually, there was a window there, but I missed the window. Okay. I took a picture of the taxi cab guy. you wouldn't believe the road he drove down to get us there, drove us right up to the orphanage where we could get out without getting wet. So it's like, I complimented him on his driving. It looked like a really wet trail, and the mud puddles, the water there on the dirt is kind of reddish brown, and you can see like less than a 16th of an inch deep into it. You know, it's kind of like the inlet, just a little too thin to plow, way, way too thin to drink, you know. And so this kid is a Bible school student, and we were there at a break. During the breaks, during the holidays, he comes back to the orphanage because that's his home. Gives you an idea of how well he feels loved and cared for there. That rather than going someplace else, he comes to the orphanage to be home with his family. There was no one there but me as an adult, and I asked the kids if they would sing another song. I just about lost my hearing. I mean, they blasted this, and this kid who's playing the guitar right there, he was clearly in worship. It wasn't just playing his instrument to make music. It was worship. And I was like, I wish I didn't have anything to record it, but I wish you could have heard these children, these orphan children, singing with their whole heart to the Lord. I asked them, do you really like that song? Oh yeah, we really like that song. And I was like, they weren't performing for anyone but God. It was just a marvelous time, and probably I won't ever forget that. God, if I have to lose my hearing, this would be a glorious way to lose it. You know, as these kids just full-voiced, no one's having to prompt them at all, and they're being led. And I don't believe that the young man understood he was leading this group in worship. But it was just a marvelous time. We're now in the training time, and Sean Flynn gets to be both translator, and he is, oops. Oh, that's a good picture. What happened is it rained so hard it took out the electricity, and he went from lighting to no lighting, and so he'd walk over by the door so he could read his Bible, and then continue on. So that was an interesting time. You may have thought you'd been in hard rain, but when the sky gets dark for a half an hour before the rain comes, you know you're really going to get hit. Now, I tried to take pictures. That's a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of water running down the sidewalk. And it comes from a 12-foot by 12-foot roof. That's just that part of the roof. And it was just flowing water. It wasn't still, it was flowing. And it was washing the bark off from the mango tree, because I was seeing debris going by. I was like, where's that coming from? It wasn't until, I wasn't going to look outside when it was raining hard. So I waited until afterwards. I said, oh, it's just cleaning the mango tree. I kept, it's raining so hard, you see that white behind that? That's rain. You know, once you go through the banana leaves on the other side, it's raining hard, you just can't see about, 40 yards, and that's it. It rained so hard, and when we came back that evening, there were ladies who were walking down the road through calf-deep water. Boy, would I not do that. Anyway, because the drain ditches overflowed, so if you ever fell, and I know what the road looked like, you'd come up with 950 different kinds of infection because of, what was in that. But they were just walking along, arm in arm, not thinking anything of it, and on a roadbed that was normally dry. There's the rain again, but I wanted to give you a chance to see the papayas. Those are not papayas, those are mangoes. Those are mangoes growing, and as the rain would come, the mango would drop on the roof. We call those mango bombs. They have an orange flesh, and they're really sweet. And when they drop, they're ripe, and so they're ready to eat. I thought I was going to eat lots and lots and lots of mangoes this time because they've got a bumper crop. I got some, but not my fill. I tried, but anyway. Bai Peng is teaching. He was one of the best students there. I tried to show some more mangoes again, but that didn't. There they are. You can tell I like mangoes. And for the ladies, I missed so many different flowers on my way out to the orphanage. But it was just raining too hard to be able to take a picture through the window of all the flowers I passed. But these are some flowers that were close to the church where we were, so I took a picture of them. This was a common flower. There's Tim teaching, and what we did was we circled up this time so people could look at each other's faces and try to interact rather than interact with one another, not just listen to the instructor. These are the guys. That's on Lin. Hak To, the one I just went past, is a Pentecostal. So he's one of two or three. James Kong is a member, he's a leader in the Church of Christ. Think of Church of Christ here in the States working with Pentecostal people. That's another Pentecostal boy. He's a missionary, just got, wasn't there at the training because his wife's just about to deliver a child. So also, they had massive rains in the Chin Hills. There was, Chantalyn got a phone call, one guy had died. There was a landslide and he was inside his house at Women Ravine and killed him. Marta wasn't there. Marta and Karen Facebook with each other. So these guys, here's Roland Sam, and Roland Sam you saw before on the previous, with the kids. He was sitting behind them. He was the pastor. There's been just, you can turn that off now. Thank you, Matthew. The group is continuing to grow. They were wanting to go from training national trainers to training up a group of mentor trainers, and they decided that they need a transition step in between. So it's going to take longer, but they'll do better in doing that. There'll be kind of a process that goes along where the guys who are the best will be the ones who will be worked with most. Wong Fong will be one of them. The Bai Peng was another. These guys are ahead of the other guys, but they're going to do it so everyone has a chance to come up. So everybody, all of those guys, some of them have responsibility, like Sean Tling. He's the father of the whole Christian Reformed Church in Myanmar. And he had just come back from 3 months of going into the Chin Hills, helping to build churches, work physically. At the same time, he preach at night. It's a half-day hike up to a village, not as long to go back down. So he would hike up, spend some time, help people, hike back down, go to another village, have to hike up. He had spent 3 months doing that. He was in good shape. I told him, I see you more refreshed and more of a sparkle than I've seen you for years. So just being with his people was probably as good as anything else, because he's the father of the faith to these people, and just his being there with them is a huge encouragement. So there are guys who are, poverty is, we don't understand how poor, who are in the gospel. Noah, he had 100,000, no, yeah, 100,000 shots, that's like $100 a month support. It cost him 80,000 for his house. 20,000. The house was what also he used as the church, and 20,000 to eat. But that only went for so long. And then his wife said, "You know, it's getting really hungry out. There's no rice, there's no food." So he went to work, and then ended up going, "You know, God's called me to preach, and I just can't. I have to preach." God graciously provided for him, but thinking of going to the place that your family goes hungry, that's the challenge. So some of these guys are doing really well. For example, James Cong, he's got support from the States because he got educated in the States with the Church of Christ, and so he has people who help support him in doing work and doing mission stuff. But they're working together from a bunch of different economic levels. Most of these guys can't afford a bicycle. James has got a van that he drives, but he's got ministerial responsibilities with the Church of Christ. So it's just a place of, these guys working together is amazing for Myanmar. It's amazing for anywhere, but Myanmar has been divided ethnically and denominationally for years and years and years, and this has been a major breakthrough in this last 3 or 4 years. So prayer for them is really important. God is just being gracious in this season for them. I would love to see the evangelistic fruit that they're gathering in the States. Not just in Myanmar, but with LRI, there's I was being told about a program that it's called Working with the Man of Peace. It's where Muslims reach out. They come in, and they were involved with one man. His name is Ezekiel. A year ago, they were like, I'm going to get the numbers wrong. There are well over 3,500 people in Muslim house churches now in less than 18 months. And he was the start of that. And what happens is they go in and have a Muslim man who will be willing to study the scriptures. He gets saved. He is a man of influence who reaches out to others. He teaches people in his own house. And so the churches are 14, 15, 16. And the growth there is just amazing. So, God does things differently in different places. He still uses His Word. And because we don't see a whole lot here, doesn't mean that a whole lot's not going on in the world. And I think of what David did when their men were too tired and they had people who stayed by the stuff at the brook when he went on to do battle, when they had the rewards to give out, the people who stayed by the stuff got the same rewards as those who went to battle. And for us, we will be having rewards that are going to come to us in the kingdom. People we will have never seen. People we have never been directly involved with, who will be accounted to us because of our working together with others. So I just want to encourage you. It doesn't matter whether we see a lot happening here. The question is God doing something, or are we involved with what He wants for us to do? That should be our desire, so that God would be glorified, that His kingdom would be expanded. And if we can keep out of the limelight, it is good for us. God's a jealous God. It's all His glory. It's His kingdom. It's His purposes to be fulfilled. So I just want to thank you for the support you give, that this church makes an impact, even though, you know, we don't see it in our pews. We do see it. And I thought it would be good for you to hear that God's grace is continuing to flow. God is such a wonderful King. And I am just so thankful I don't have another 4 days of flying in or staying in airports. So it was a long trip. I told Karen I basically went around the world, just kind of going over the pole a lot, but 14-hour flights are no fun. In case you're someone like Lon, who used to fly for the Air Force, and that was something he liked to do, but other than that, for most of us, it's not a fun experience. We're just sitting, waiting until we land. So, I'll try to answer any questions you might have. Yes, Karen?
Well, there's some young ladies in the orphanage and stuff. Do they like age out like they do here in the States? What do a lot of those young ladies do after they get older? Or do they get, a lot of them don't get adopted out, or what?
Yeah, those kids are probably not going to be adopted out. What happens is their public school system, kind of like most of the rest of their government, is a bit corrupt. If the kids don't pay tuition going into the 9th grade, then the teachers won't give them good scores. If they don't get good grades going into the 9th grade, then they don't get to go on to further education. And so Roland was telling me that they have 4 top 10 students from the orphanage, which I guess that meant they were in the top 10%. Someone had paid the $30 a month per child for the kids who were going into 9th grade for their tuition, so that they were able to get the grades that they actually earned, rather than getting cut off. These kids, just like the young boy that went to Bible school, they will continue through with the CRC. Will try to help them into, some of the young ladies will get married, okay? If they go through the Bible school, then they become Christian ed ladies for the church, so they get prepared to go help the church. There's a number of, I saw some kids that had gone through the Bible school and then went into, so these were guys that went into other programs, technical stuff, maybe IT stuff, so that they don't necessarily have to stay with the church, but they'll be able to go on. So think of it, it's called an orphanage, but it's more like a family. And so they're trying to fit the kids back into whatever God's plan for them is. And people from either Singapore, Australia, the lower 48, people have been helping in little ways, and it's making a big difference for those kids.
Can people from the States adopt them out? It's pretty hard.
Oh, yeah. Remember that the military controls 3/4 of the pie? Back in Cyclone Nargis, when the U.S. had warships outside of the Delta area and wanted to send in relief, the government refused to allow those people to come in, so you had tens of thousands of people die. They would rather do that than open the people up to Western influence. So, yeah, adopting people out would say that Myanmar is not a good place to stay. That makes it really, really difficult. So, yeah, the probability of adopting someone out of Myanmar, not good. Robert?
Is it the same with, I know, we send different funds, but like sending items themselves, that's not really practical
No, it's not.
due to the like screening of the mail, and does that stuff get compensated, or is it
Yeah,
just a matter of logistics? Or?
anytime, yeah. Once the government is corrupt, then, you know, whatever the people take, they think, hey, it's nothing in comparison to what the government does. But at the same time, people who are working for themselves, like taxi cab drivers, they're some of the best taxi cab drivers in the sense of being honest, not gouging you.
Wow.
So once they have things are changing radically in Myanmar, and there's foreign entrepreneurs are going in and building hotels and building things like that, because it's starting to open up. It's like they want to get in at ground level for business. Some of the big companies are going in because it's not safe yet. But with that happening, one of the things that's happened with the city of Yangon is it's gone from 4.3 million to over 8 million people. And that's caused the prices of housing to go up 100 times. So, yeah, it's like, okay, there's now employment, but the prices are just crazy high. They also have problems with, they got lots of, remember last year I showed you that sports car that you couldn't get out of first gear, you couldn't wind it up in first gear on any road that I'd so far traveled in Myanmar, but it was a status. So you have people buying cars for status, and it's clogging the roads certain times of the day. So the taxi cab drivers drive the alleys, and then you get a traffic jam in an alley, which is a real challenge because they get so, you know, if they go across a bridge, it won't allow anybody but a car and maybe a bicycle to go by at the same time, and nobody wants to let the other one person in. And so, yeah, that was interesting. So you have the infrastructure of a city that's hundreds of years old, and it's being impacted. There's construction going on all the time, but they've got massive amounts of change to make to come into the modern world.
So how come they're so poor? They all have iPhones. Where do those come from?
Well, they went from being $2,500 a phone to China is flooding the market with them, and it's like you see people here that are on welfare and have iPhones.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like, what's your priority? But they're a whole lot cheaper, and so they get the knockoff iPhones, and the price has gone radically down. But it's also allowed them, they don't have very good internet service, so they're still not having lots of contact with the West, but it's starting to improve. And that itself will bring a pretty major change. I think the military has realized, because they got swamped in the election, that they're on the wrong end of the power curve. So more than likely what they're doing right now is they're amassing huge amounts of money, and we're doing that before, but they'll be doing that even more now, knowing that the end is coming for them, so they're end of their control and power. The military has huge military reservations. They don't let anybody farm it. So anyhow, yeah. So the nation has been corrupt for a long time, and now they're just starting to come out of it. You know, the lady is well known. She got a Nobel Peace Prize, but she says, and she's a politician, she went to the Chin Hills and prayed, and then, oh good, she prays. Yeah, well, there, but not necessarily anywhere else. So, you know, she invoked the name of the Christian God. Well, she was with Christian people, but not necessarily, you know, she's not going to do that with the Buddhist group. So, politicians are politicians.
You did mention that did you say a fourth of those elected were Christian, or did
Most of those that were in the, like almost every place, the majority ethnic group owns the lowland, the fertile land. Okay, so all the minority peoples are pushed into the hills. Okay, those hills now become their own states, okay, or regions, and the tribal people in the hills, there's a lot of them that are Christians. They have a Buddhist mix and animists and all that, But there are a number of Christians that are there, and they voted other Christians into office. So it's gone from a clearly Buddhist-controlled government to a government that can favor Christianity in certain states. And Chin State was one of the states that happened.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the, you know, the degree of influence and then,
It goes state by state,
yeah.
and it's still working things out. You know, there's still everybody going, it's getting better. It's not good, but it's getting better than it was. No one is saved by political deliverance. It's only God's grace. You know, God's grace is bringing change that is allowing His kingdom to advance in that nation. It has been the most resistant to the gospel. Remember, Adoniram Judson was the first American missionary. He went to Burma. And it has had such limited impact after over 150 years. Now it's finally starting to have greater impact. And one of the problems has been that the denominations were opposing one another. So Christian infighting. Nothing can stop the church but the church.
Does the military there, is that I mean, do they choose who's going to serve? Is there is it mandatory serving for those that are in?
Yeah, you can be forced into serving. A number of the people in northern Myanmar fled across the border into China to keep from having to be drafted is not the term.
Right.
Okay, forced in to become members of the military. But that is changing, okay? But I don't know if it's just a short window or if it's permanent. Love for it to be permanent, but there's no guarantee. That's like Russia had a short window. It's not really pretty in Russia anymore. So, yeah, we take advantage of the opportunity that's presented. When the window opens, we need to step through it. Thanks for listening. I'm going to close off. Lord Jesus, you are so gracious to us as a people. We give you thanks for the privilege we have of being a part of your kingdom. We ask you for our brothers and sisters in Christ in Myanmar, that you'd encourage and strengthen them and provide all their needs. In your matchless name we pray, Lord Jesus.